Welcome everybody, you're tuned into the second episode to Agile Toolkit tutorial. This tutorial is dedicated to those who wish to learn more about the Agile Toolkit framework or web software development in general. Your hosts are Romans and myself, Armin. If you enjoy this tutorial, you'll find all of the series on our website, that is agiletoolkit.org/tutorial. So let me please introduce the guy to you that will lead us down the path. Romans, the very developer of Agile Toolkit.
My pleasure. When Armin first contacted me, he said that he was excited about Agile Toolkit and he wanted to try and build a simple project called Lost and Found. I suggested, why not create a series of video tutorials where not only we go through all the steps necessary to build our own web software, but also share it with everyone who wishes to become a professional web developer.
And if you haven't watched through the first episode, and if you are new to Agile Toolkit, I deeply encourage you to do that. Agile Toolkit has a deep philosophy and collections of development paradigms which should be properly understood. And your experience with Agile Toolkit will be unlike any other framework as you continue to discover an alternative and a more efficient way to build web software. Agile Toolkit has been stable and in production for over 10 years. It has been initially a private project of Agile technologies, but in early 2011 it was open sourced and developers from all around the world started slowly try it out. So my advice to you is not to worry about the details so much at the beginning. Everything essential for a professional product is present in Agile Toolkit, and you will eventually discover it. For the sake of simple understanding, we will only explain the basic use of the toolkit.
Awesome. Today we are going to create a prototype for our upcoming project. Let me explain what the prototype is and what are the three main stages of any web project which decides to be successful and long-living. So the first stage of the project is the prototype. This is something a company will typically develop to show investors, initial users, and the main goal of the prototype is to be really cost efficient. The second phase of the project development is usually the profit-generating version of the project. So this time, in many developments, the project is being completely redeveloped from zero, and this time it aims to be run maybe on 2-3 computers, and it would take the company to the profitability. Finally, the third phase is the high availability of the project, and this is where the company starts growing much more aggressively, and with 2 or 3 servers the company has is insufficient to run the project, and in this case you need to develop clusters of services. In some cases companies end up writing the software 3 times. So existing frameworks help us to solve the transition between the middle phase and the final phase. So the profit generating phase and the high scalability phase are easy to achieve because the separation of the business logic and the presentation logic. Other frameworks can do that. What Agile Toolkit does, what no other framework can do, it is join the whole thing with a prototype. So you can start building prototype, which eventually are going to turn into a profit-generating machine, which will end up as a high availability code base for your clustering system.
And it means I don't have to go building my application 2 to 3 times. I just start with one thing, and then gradually it will evolve until the high availability stage.
That's correct, yes. So even though we are developing really quickly, we can build prototype much quicker than any other framework. This is the code you will be evolving until it is in a high availability stage.
So before we dash forward, last time we were just playing with the toolkit. Now that we have decided on a proper project, how would you recommend we start it?
The first decision is, are we going to build a public project or a private one? And in this case, I'm going to show you how to build a public project with using GitHub as the transport for sharing source with all the world. I have a free account on github.com, which is really super easy place for sharing code. I'll quickly create a new project for what we are going to do here, and it is going to be a public project.
So we're creating a new Git for lost and found.
Yes.
And the major purpose of a version control system is to archive the history of the file changes as you work on your project. And also it's much easier for multiple people to work on the same project. And Git specifically allows people to contribute to your project without any effort from you. They would simply send you their proposed changes, and you as the developer or as the main developer, you could decide to either include or not include those changes into your project.
That's right. I have also application called GitHub for Mac. So now that I created the repository online, I can see all my repositories here, and this is my new repository. The next thing I'm doing, I'm going to clone it into my computer so that I can work on my files locally.
So and what we found now in this folder is like a complete fresh version of the Agile Toolkit, or is it just empty for the moment?
This is empty because GitHub doesn't know anything about Agile Toolkit.
Okay.
I also have this folder under my local Apache, so I'm using AMPPS. So this is the folder where I will be creating the files now, and I will need to place Agile Toolkit in here.
So what are you now doing? You're getting like a fresh version of Agile Toolkit into our lost and found folder that is on your computer.
Yeah, so what I was planning to do is, first of all, this is my editor, which is called Sublime. But before I actually put Agile Toolkit in here, I simply wanted to create a test file, like I usually do, called index.php, which simply tests that everything works fine. Like this. And there you go, so it's 4. What next thing I wanted to show you is, now that my repository is local, I can see all the changes happening, and it says I have a new file called index.php. So in order for all the world to see this new file, I'm going to add it into my repository and synchronize my changes with GitHub. And when I click commit and sync, it is uploading the changes to GitHub. Now
the whole world that has access to your GitHub will see that you have changed a file.
Yes. I suggest that whenever you're doing a simple project for yourself, for your school, doesn't matter, consider using GitHub from the very beginning, because it really helps you manage the files. And if you're just learning to develop and you plan to get a job later on and you go into a serious company, 95% they would be using a GitHub or SVN or some other versioning control system. So you will know, you will have this skill already.
Okay.
Okay, so like in the last podcast, I'm going to Agile Toolkit website and clicking on download here. And I'm going to extract this file, and I will also demonstrate which files I want to copy and which files I don't want to copy. This is the folder which was just downloaded. Last time we simply moved all the files into our web root. This time I wanted to copy files slowly, only what we need. So we will need ATK4. We will also need index file, and actually that's okay. And we will also need to have an API class.
What about the config PHP?
It's not mandatory, so we can start without it.
Okay.
So okay, I copied this file, but I'm going to open it in my editor and severely clean it up. So I'm going to clean all of this and just leave a couple of lines which are necessary. And for now I'm just going to comment them out. So we have absolute minimum, like this. Okay, and let's see if this would work. Yes, one thing I forgot is a page. I need an initial page for index. Let me set lost and found here. This is like a name for the project. It's typically good that you change that. And I also have a custom class called frontend. It doesn't do anything else from API frontend at the moment. So it is the default behavior. And I have created a file called index.php, again, which does nothing really. So this is what I have when I just start with Agile Toolkit. And before we start with the file, with the pages, let me just add a couple of lines here, which we will need. So I'm going to uncomment those. And explain what they do. So DB Connect connects to our database. By default, it uses MySQL connection, but I will show you how this can be changed in the config file. Sets the minimum requirement for Agile Toolkit we're using. Again, a good thing to do. It will show an error if someone tries to use it with the older version of ATK. And with this line, we are telling that we are going to rely on jQuery and jQuery UI, and which is optional, but a lot of components in Agile Toolkit use that. And finally, I'm adding a small menu on the page, which is going to have two items only for now. One would be index, and the other is a logout. Okay, so the configuration error I'm getting now is that the connect string for MySQL is not being defined. I need to create a config.php file now with this information. Also, I thought, why not use the default installation of Agile Toolkit. Here. File. I'm just going to look what's in here. I'll delete the comments so they don't distract us. And this is the configuration for DSM. My database is called lost and found. And this is the username and password for my MySQL database. Right, I need to move it to this file. Okay, now what we see here is exactly the same thing, apart from the menu have changed, but Agile Toolkit is also connecting to the database now.
So with the DB Connect that we're doing in the class front end, it basically means that any page that is loaded will already have a database connection.
That's right. Next, I'm going to create a few pages which we will need later on. A registration page, a page for claiming and adding lost items. I will also want to have an administrative page where it's possible to access and edit all database data.
Well, this is our goal for today, to implement pages, as I said before. And while Roman is now preparing those pages, I comment on briefly on what they're doing. Like, well, of course, the admin page is for us as the web owners. We want to have the possibility to edit the stuff that is posted on the website, delete stuff, just doing those basic stuff, so everything is in a good shape. And oh, he's pretty fast at typing, Romans, you can see. And you can see also that those the page classes all look the same. They inherit from class pages, and at the moment we already have like the admin and the register page, and we will fill those ones with the logic later on. So, and it's important to realize this page _items _lost actually is seen by Agile Toolkit, if I see it right, that the actual position location of the file is folder page, folder items, and then lost PHP.
Next, let me show you the structure of our database. We have already created a simple structure in MySQLWorkbench, and in order for Agile Toolkit to interact with it, we will need to create a couple of models. Model is an object-oriented presentation of your data. This is our structure in database.
And maybe we can go just very briefly over it. It's nothing really very special. You can see we have a table for the users, we have a table for the items, and we have some helping tables like country. We come to that point later. And we have a table user item and item type. So nothing really fancy there. We'll talk about this while Roman is doing the models.
Yes, I'm going to create two models for now. One model will be for the user, and another model will be for generic items. So it will be either lost or a found item. I will be creating items under the lib folder. This is the standard location of models. Model.
And as you can see, we say that the table that is connected with this model is also called user, and of course it's the same name as the table's name.
Next, I'm going to add a couple of fields as well for the class here.
And as you can see, describing the models is a pretty straightforward job. All we actually do is adding the fields of the database. You can see the database still under the window where Roman's coding. We want to have access to the model. As you can see, Roman is using exactly the same names as in the database. Well, it's pretty obvious. And the nice thing of this concept, if we change the model at a later stage, there won't be any impact on the design and vice versa. So just because we want to change the appearance of our website, we will not touch the business logic. And this is a really great advantage throughout the development of your project, because it drags away so many possibilities to do errors and another lots of fuss you don't want to deal with during development. So now we're doing the item, the model item, and it's exactly the same thing again. We just add the fields that we find in the table item. And you can see we also can tell Agile Toolkit what type the fields are, like in this description, for example, type text.
Now that the pages are ready and the models are ready, we need to add views to the pages and connect them with models. Think of view as a bridge between the page and a model. I will start by creating an admin page. I'm going to open it in the browser again, just to show you it's empty. I'm like magician here. Yeah, it's empty.
And in case you don't know what this CRUD thing means, CRUD stands for create, read or retrieve, update, and delete. So basically all the functions you need to work with data in general. And CRUD in Agile Toolkit offers a very, very easy way to do all these tasks like creating, reading, updating, deleting information. So the data you see, we just put that in so we have something to really look at. And you see, with just 1 or 2 lines of code, we have a complete and fully functional CRUD interface there. If you ever did that for yourself, developing something like that for yourself, you know that it would take like much more work, much more effort to come up with that.
Anyway, so yeah, this is really ideal for admin interfaces. And I just wanted to note one thing. Now that the page is ready and the model is ready and we have connected them, there is this question about an MVC. People love model view controller frameworks and they ask, is Agile an MVC framework? So is it? In reality, it is an MVC framework, but it's slightly different MVC. So typically, this model view controller triangle is being applied on the page level. So for one page, you could have one model, one controller, and one view. In case with Agile Toolkit, this concept is applied on every view basis. So, for example, when I'm adding a new view to my admin page with this, set model item. Now I could say I have 2 MVCs on the page. The first one is a model view called grid, call it CRUD, and the controller which comes seamlessly in between of them, and I don't even have to specify it. It's a generic controller. But the point I'm trying to make is that MVC is still present in Agile Toolkit, but it's on a view level. This gives us unlimited flexibility, and pages can have much more elements without increased complexity of controllers. Let me now add a view called tabs and move our 2 grid and move our 2 CRUD elements inside different tabs.
So the tabs we are using kind of in a minute, they are coming from like they're standard jQuery UI tabs. And the contents of the tabs, however, are fully featured CRUD views. We just place them into the tabs, and we'll see how those tabs look like in a second. And maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea how they look like, but you can change and customize the appearance of everything that comes with the jQuery UI anyway. And there's a very great tool on the jQuery UI website where you can change all of the looks of your tabs, and now you see the tabs, and that looks much nicer, doesn't it? But still, if you're not happy with the looks, there's this brilliant tool of jQuery UI on their website, and you can change it to whatever you need.
It's called Theme Roller, and I'm just going to open it up. We at Agile Toolkit is simply using the standard UI elements. You see the tabs here, so these are exactly the same tabs we just used, except that we slightly tweaked our theme. But you can create your own theme, you can design it, use different colors, you can download and replace the supplied theme of Agile Toolkit, and then all of your experience in Agile Toolkit will look slightly different. Next, let me also create a registration form and a form for reporting a lost item.
By the way, one of the early mistakes I did when I tried to use CRUD, I wanted to have like the possibility to disable some of the features. Like you saw before that we have, of course, the add feature. We could delete and edit things, and I wanted to get rid, for example, of the add button. But now CRUD exists in a combination of 2 things: form and grid. And for some tasks, it can be done easier or more efficient if you use like primary views, grids and forms, and not CRUD views, depending really on what you want. Now, for our admin page, of course, we want CRUDs because the admin should have all like the possibilities of adding, deleting, and adding new people there or new items there. But if you only want to show the information rather than giving the possibility to edit, delete, and add things, you would go using grids and forms instead.
All right, so I'm finished with the registration form now.
Let's go through the lines maybe quickly and just explain what you just did there.
Let's see if it works here. Okay, no button, but I suppose I can fill out something. Let me add button as well. So what I'm doing here is first I'm creating a new view which is built on the class form, and then I'm associating this new view with the model user, so it picks up all the fields, all the labels, and the types as well. Next, I'm adding the submit button, which will say register. Okay, and this is a default construction of Agile Toolkit for forms. When form is being submitted, this block will be executed. First, I'm going to store my new user data inside the database, and next I'm going to display a success message to the user with this line, which invokes it through a built-in JavaScript library. Okay, so let me try. So Romans is going to register. And it says we have sent you a confirmation email. It actually haven't sent me anything just yet because I haven't created this functionality, but that's what the message was supposed to say.
A thing to note here is that because we haven't created all those fields that you can see in the form, and you might ask yourself, but where are those fields coming? Well, we did that in one line where it says, can you go back to the source code? Where we said form set model user, it looks up in our class user and it sees all the fields that we set there in the class user, and automatically creates the form with all those fields for us. And this is, of course, very, very handy and easy to do.
That's right. And now I'm back to my admin page, and I see that this is my registration here. This is a couple of tries I did before. I'm going to just delete them. Okay, and there were no password. Let me set the password to 1, 2, 3 for now.
While we are at that, so two things come to my mind. First of all, when you enter the password, we could see actually that you were typing 1, 2, 3. And I think we should change that to like a proper password field where we don't see actually what we type in there, but where we see those dots. And all we need to do, we set the type of this field to password.
I'm sorry. There we go.
And now the display is like a password should look like. The second thing that we might want to add also is that some of the fields should be mandatory, but we can do that later if you want to. But I think in a register form, like all of those should be mandatory fields. If they don't, if they are not filled out by the user, he shouldn't be able to register in the first place. So, and this is very easily done. We just say, set mandatory to true.
Yeah, it's supposed to have a message in here. Okay, that's done.
And this
And one thing we haven't done is let's update our menu on top so that the pages we have added are actually being reflected on the menu as well. Otherwise, I always have to type it in the URL directly.
And this can be done very easily in the front end. You see those menu items, and what we simply do is we add a few more menu items like register and the admin page.
Okay, let's also add items lost. I will also lost item. I must note that this particular menu implementation is included with Agile Toolkit just for convenience. In many cases, your web application will have a different implementation of menu, and that's all right. You don't need to use this menu. You can have your own menu.
So one other thing that is still missing is authentication support, because we must ask a user's login information if he tries to add a new item. He needs an account, of course, to do that. And also the admin page, well, that should be only accessible to users that are administrators of the page.
Let me start by enabling authentication globally. When anything needs to have a global effect, it is placed inside the application class, which is called frontend. This way, all the pages will request authentication. Here I have added the authentication class, which by default can be referenced through this auth variable. Okay, let's see if I can log in. And I successfully logged in with my user of l@AgileTech and the password 123. So I simply added the new controller. Authentication is a controller. I associated it with a user model and called this check method, which performs the actual checking of the password, and it worked. If I log out, I can't access again. Now the thing is, if I place a check under the menu in here, then on the login page you will have the menu as well. So it's up to you how you initialize this, but you need to understand that anything beyond this line will not be executed if the user didn't provide the proper authentication.
Now we need to check if the admin flag of a user is set, I believe, because now every user can access the admin page if he manages to log in. But of course, only the users that have admin class or admin rights should be able to come to that page.
That's right. So first, let me tell you one thing. So my database structure was pretty complex. It had users with many fields. I didn't convert them into my model initially. I just created 4 fields. So now that I have a need for a flag, I'm just going to add another field in here called isAdmin and specify the type Boolean. Now I can see which users are the admin, and Romans is not admin, but that's all right. Not only I can see that, but I can actually edit and remove the checkbox if I don't want this user to be admin anymore.
Again, this is very, very handy. Just because we said the type is Boolean in the CRUD interface, immediately it gives you like this checkmark thing without having you to code a single line, and this saves a lot of time and hassle.
Next, I'm going to go to the admin page, and now I need to access the information about currently logged in user. As I have already mentioned, there is a The controller binds itself to the property of the API class. So if I access API class out like this, the controller would have a model link which I can access as any model and get the property of is admin. So I'm going to put that, let's say, in a variable, and then if the variable is false, what should I do? Let's say I'm going to redirect user to a different page.
Probably the index page or something like that, like the welcome page.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. And because I am now logged with Romans, who is not admin, I can't access the page anymore. It simply redirects me back.
And maybe as we do that, maybe we shouldn't even show the menu item admin to users that are not logged in, or users that are just not admin. So we only show the menu item admin actually to users that are logged in and admin, and that should be an easy task to do.
Yes. So in here we have a model, a view called menu. I will assign it to the variable like this, and if the user is admin, I'm adding additional menu item like this, and then I'm resuming to add all the other menu items to the menu. So now I don't have that item anymore, but if I log out and log in with a demo user, I can access the admin page just like before.
And maybe we should do the same thing with the log out button. Like if a user is not logged in already, well, then there's of course no use for the log out button too. So we could check that. We could check if a user is logged in and hide the log out button if he's not logged in.
Yes, we can do that, but another thing I suppose we need to do is we need to implement the register page. At the moment, the register page requires authentication, which is kind of incorrect. We need to explicitly tell that this page is allowed. There we go. So I explicitly allowed the register page. If I go to any other page, I will be greeted with a login screen again.
So when we have the register page, probably not every user should be able to make himself an admin.
Oh yeah. So okay, let's go back to register page and set. So when we're using the model, by default it will take all the fields which are not hidden or system and import them, but we can specify which fields and in which order we'd like them to fill out by giving the second argument to set model email password. So I'd like the new users just to fill out these two fields.
That's enough for registering, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's still the logout button that bothers me kind of a bit. When a user is not logged in, I think there shouldn't be a logout button.
Okay, the typical way how to deal with the menus is that we would usually have two menus, one menu for the logged in user and another menu for the general access when the user is not logged in. And this is how we can implement it. If this, so we do a check. If user is being logged in, we add the regular menu like this. Otherwise, okay, which pages do we need for the public menu? Probably an index page is still required.
Yeah, for the public, we need the register, of course, the welcome page. Well, and that's it for the moment.
Okay. Okay, that should be enough. The welcome page, I believe, also requires whitelisting. So we can specify multiple page using array in here. Okay, now both pages are permitted, but other pages are not. Perhaps we can move all these blocks a little bit up before the check. So even though if I'm seeing this form here, I can still go back to register.
I think we still have a little mistake in because when we now log in, I think we still see the register page. I'm not quite sure if I saw it now correctly in the source code.
That's right, yes, let's remove it.
Yeah, and of course we don't want that as well.
I will create a new page, which will be called login. Login, PHP. And the only thing this page is going to do is perform a redirect back to the index page unconditionally. There we go. So now if I type page login, it asks me for my username and password.
Yeah.
Type 1, 2, 3, and it successfully sends me back to the welcome page.
Okay, and I think we need only two more things to do, and then I think we call it a day. The first thing is, once he did that, once he logged in on the welcome page when he is logged in, let's just write hello and then the first name so that the guy actually sees, oh, I'm logged in at the moment.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's do that. So that means we need to do it on this index page. Let's do this. So if we'll add a condition, so if user is logged in, we're going to add text. So view info. Let's okay, and inside here we're going to say hello, and we need to get the first name of the user, right? Or
the first name of the user, exactly.
Okay, so we need this being hello, Roman.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Again, I still see login. I still see the login button, which should not be there because I'm already logged in.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So
yeah, the menu item just goes down. Exactly.
And this is going out.
Exactly.
Okay, done.
Wonderful. And yet you now just deleted the lost and found menu item. This needs to go up when the user is logged in.
So for logged in user, we have welcome. Option, we're gonna have an admin page.
Exactly.
And
now this goes. The items. I would put the items lost report. Put it up to the logged in user.
Yeah.
The user that is not logged in doesn't need to see that menu.
Okay. Let's. Okay, so we have welcome, report lost item, and logout. If I go out, I have welcome, login, and register. And welcome doesn't say anything.
Yeah. So now that we are done for the day, it would be good if we now commit our changes that we did now in this session to the GitHub web page, and Roman's is showing us how to do that.
Okay, as I mentioned before, we can decide if we want to have ATK4 inside our repository or not. It is entirely up to you. I don't want to exclude it, so I can commit it right in. If you know how to exclude it, you can do it. So the only thing I'm going to do now is to write the changes first prototype. And I'm going to commit changes and synchronize with the repository. And that means all of you who have just watched this podcast can go to this page in GitHub, and you will be able to check out this and clone on your local computer and play with it, and maybe do some additional changes or even contribute some code back.